Hello, are you here to debate?
Thank you,
Yes, I
Boo.
am.
All right. What's your name, age, and pronouns?
Thank you, Boo.
What was that?
What's your name, age, and pronouns?
My
Thank
name
you,
is
Boo.
Brian, 32, and he, him.
Okay, Brian, what are you here to talk about?
I would like to talk about trans men and women are men and women.
Okay, I would agree that they are.
You said you agree that they are? No, I do not
100%.
agree that they are.
Okay, and why is that?
I just don't think that you can change your sex just based on how you feel.
Okay, Brian, what is sex?
Male or female.
Those would be
You're
examples.
either one or the other.
Those would be examples of two sex categories. I'm asking you, what is sex as like a concept?
What is sex as a concept?
Yep.
Boy or girl?
So if I were to ask you just really quickly, what is a car? Or if you were to ask me, hey, Jovan, what's a car? And I said Toyota.
Thank you,
Would
Boo.
that make sense?
I see what you're saying, but I guess I don't know how else to describe sex. Because I mean, for me, sex and gender are the same thing. So
Okay. Do you notice the way you
you're either a
started
boy
that?
or a girl.
Do you notice the way you started that sentence was, for me, sex and gender are the same thing. But I'm asking, like, what are
Well,
they
I think for
conceptually?
me and a wide variety of the population agree.
Well, I would disagree based on like biology and sociology and neuroscience, but we'll get into
So
into
you
those
disagree
verses.
on a biological level and genetically?
Yeah, gender is not a biological category, so gender and sex can't be the same thing. Sex would be the biological, gender would be the social.
Yeah, see,
They're
I
not
disagree that one's a social construct at all.
okay. Based on
Personally.
what? So wait, let me ask you. So sex and gender are always correlated.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I in my laundry room is sitting my pet. I have a pet dog chilling in my laundry room. Okay, this is a female dog. Okay, female dog.
Yep.
Is this female dog a woman?
It's a woman dog, I guess. Yeah,
It's a woman dog.
sure.
You think dogs are women? So should we give the dog full legal protections when
It's
the
not a
law says
human.
that?
It's
when
not
the
a
law-
human. I never
Cool.
called it a human.
Cool. What's the definition of woman?
The definition of woman. Okay, so I see where your point is on that one. Okay, so I kind of messed up on there. So yeah, I guess it wouldn't be called a woman.
Great. So then we know that sex and gender are not always correlated. Because if they were, every animal would be a woman or a man. But they're not. Because they're not people.
But well, it'd be male or female.
Cool.
Maybe
male
not
and,
like a woman.
Male and female would
I
be
think this is tied to the human population.
Thank you, Boo.
Sure.
The human
Male
race.
and female would be the sex categories. Man and woman would be the gender categories. And we know that gender is a social thing because gender, as a concept, only exists in human beings. Gender doesn't exist outside of us. Dogs wouldn't be calling themselves man and woman if we didn't exist. We're the ones who sort of gender animals. Animals have sex.
Yeah, but
They're
they are
female and
either
male.
boy or girl.
No.
I don't think there's any female dogs that think they're male dogs.
What's the definition of boy, please?
A male.
No, what is the definition of boy? Like, give me the actual definition.
I don't have I can pull it up. I don't know exactly what you're looking for this.
Okay, so let me just give you this. If the definition of woman, or if the definition of man is adult human male, the definition of boy would be
A child male.
human male.
Male child. Human. Yeah.
So again, boy is just a younger version of a man. It is just another gender category. And we know again that they're gender categories because we call animals boys and girls. Animals don't call themselves this. Animals don't have these concepts. We personify them by giving them boy and girl as their gender. This is something that doesn't actually exist inside of them. We just give it to them. So sex, which is whether you are male or female, is a concept that all animals have. Specifically if they breed dimorphically. But gender, whether you're a man or a woman,
man, you're a male. If you're a woman, you're a female.
well, if they're not the same thing,
And I just don't
then
see how you.
if they aren't the same thing, then that doesn't work.
But how are they not the same thing?
We just went over this. If they were
No,
the
I-
same
okay.
thing,
So
every
when
male
you're-
dog would be a man and every female dog would be a woman.
No, we're not talking about dogs. We're talking about the human race, though.
If sex and gender are synonymous, then anytime you have sex in anything, it would be synonymous with gender, but it's not.
I think it is in the human race.
Okay, so
I
we're just
just
special
don't think
pleading.
that there's anybody that can just change.
We're special pleading that humans
they
are just
are.
different than like every other animal on the planet when it comes to these things. Okay, let's do this.
Well, I think we would have a debate about it if they decided there was some woman dog or female dog that decided that they wanted to get some kind of sex change operation.
Great.
And be like, look,
Let's do this.
but that's not the case.
Let's do this.
Thank you,
Woman
Boo.
as a category is something you're saying trans women cannot be a part of. So woman is a category.
If they
That
were
people
born,
can
if they
fit
were
into.
born a man,
Hold on.
Correct.
Hold on. Woman is a category that people can fit into. This would mean in order to fit into this and exclude people, there must be a necessary condition. Do you know what necessary conditions are?
yeah, I know what necessary conditions. They would have to fall. They would have to fit into that. Otherwise, it can't be that.
Great. What is that trait for women? What is the necessary condition that makes you a woman?
I think it kind of boils down to chromosomes, really.
Okay, what chromosomes would be necessary for you to possess to be a woman?
For a woman, it would have to be at least one X chromosome.
One X chromosome. So if you have one X chromosome, as long as you have
At
at
least
least
have
one
to
X
have.
chromosome, you can be a woman.
Yeah,
By this definition, my friend,
you are a
all
woman.
by this definition, all males are women
No,
because
no,
all
I
males
said
have
you have
at
to
least.
have at least.
Mhm,
You have to have at least
mhm,
one X chromosome
mhm.
to be a woman.
Yep. If I have
So
XY
if
chromosomes,
you have to have that at least,
yep.
but
If I
not
have
limited to that.
Yep. Nope, necessary conditions mean that this is the necessary thing to be in this category. So if I have XY chromosomes, I have at least one X chromosome, so I can be a woman.
Thank you, Boo.
No, because for the male, you have to have at least
Thank
the
you,
Y
Boo.
chromosome that has the operating and functional SRY gene.
Let me ask you a riddle. I have 2 coins.
I'm not good at riddles, but I'll try.
I have 2 coins. These coins, when totaled together, equal 30 cents. One of them is not a nickel. What 2 coins do I have?
Say it one more time. I don't know if I quite followed along to that.
I have 2
The
coins.
2 coins.
They equal
And
30.
the
They equal up
total
to
of these
30
2
cents.
coins.
30 cents. Yep. One of them is not a nickel. What 2 coins do I have?
We're talking about American money. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm not good at riddles.
Would you like? I'll give you the answer if you'd like it.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a quarter and a nickel.
Okay.
Do you know why it's a quarter and a nickel?
I don't.
Because I only said one of them is not a nickel. So the other one can still be a nickel. So when you say you must have at least one X chromosome, that means one of your
Mhm.
chromosomes must be X. All genetic males
Thank you, Boo.
who have a typical genetic male chromosome pattern, will have at least one X chromosome. Every single one of us.
Yeah, but they don't become male until the Y chromosome with the SRY gene gets involved.
Your
Until then,
category, your necessary condition was to have at least one X chromosome. It wasn't you must have a Y chromosome with an expressed SRY gene. It was you have to have at least one X chromosome
for
and
the
then
woman,
you can be
but
a
you're
woman.
leaving out what I said you have to have for the male.
Oh, okay. But I wasn't asking what you have to have for the male. I said, what should the necessary condition to be a woman? You can't just say to be a woman, you must not be a male, because that doesn't give me what a woman is. That's actually an incomplete
Well, I mean,
understanding.
in our life, that's what it would have to be.
No, do you want to know why this doesn't work?
In order to be a woman, you'd have to not be a male.
So we're saying, in order to be a woman, you must not be male. Then I will say, well, what's a male? Well, in order to be a male, you must not be woman. So this is just a circle.
Yeah.
This is quite literally just a circle.
Female, they have the X chromosome at least. But not limited to, because they could also have another X. And shoot, they could even have another X on top of that.
Yep. All males at least.
They're going to have at least, going to have the Y chromosome with the SRY gene intact and fully functioning.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we'll get into the fact that like sometimes the SRY gene will express itself on the second X chromosome, which breaks this logic now all of a sudden, because now you're going to have people that are genetically female that have an expressed SRY gene. But again, the bigger issue here is that we're saying that to be a woman, you must at least have one X chromosome, which all of us do at least have one X chromosome. So all of us would be women.
That's not true, actually.
Yes,
that is not true.
Who doesn't have at least one? Wait, I'm sorry. Do you think there are
people out there with just Y chromosomes? I believe that's actually called Turner syndrome.
No, hold on.
Yeah, it normally only happens to women, to females, but it actually can happen to males in some cases, where they only have the Y chromosome.
Sure. Well, Turner syndrome is typically 45 1X or 45 XO. So you'd either have one X chromosome or you'd have an XO chromosome.
What it is it will take away an X. So, like, typically a female will have XX chromosomes.
Yep, they would
and
still have
one like XO chromosomes is what the O represents is the lacking there of the other X chromosome.
Turner syndrome, a condition that affects only females, results when one of the X chromosomes is missing or partially missing. So they'd still have the other one.
Yes, and can also affect males to where they only are left with just the Y chromosome.
Nope, it's a
typically
condition.
Only affects females.
Turner syndrome, a condition that affects only females.
Yeah, well, you can look it up. You look into it further instead of looking at the AI overview.
This isn't the AI overview. Males. This isn't the AI overview. This is the Mayo Clinic.
But it can, in some cases, look up, can Turner syndrome be found in males, where they are only left with the Y chromosome? Because they're just giving you the generalized idea, but it typically only happens in females, but it can't happen in males, so they're left with just the Y.
Okay. So the only men that are males would be men with Turner syndrome.
Say that one more time.
So then the only males that are males would be males with Turner syndrome.
No.
Yes, because they're the only ones that don't have at least one X chromosome. If I were to tell you,
Y chromosome, but not limited to that.
If I were to tell you, in order for my car to drive, so I have a car, in order for my car to drive, it must have at least one wheel. Okay, it must at least have one wheel. And then you see me later driving my car down the street. What does that mean that my car has one of?
Steering wheels.
A wheel. So if I get rid of 3 wheels on my car, but keep one, does my car have at least one wheel? If I replace those wheels with bananas, but I still have that one wheel, does my car at least have one wheel?
Yes.
So then I would still consider it a car because it at least has one wheel. It can still drive. It at least has one wheel.
Well, I mean, I would consider a car even if I had 0 wheels on it. I've seen videos of people driving on the rims.
I'm just using this as an analogy, friend. So when you say that a
Okay.
woman must have
Can
at
I interrupt real quick?
least, wait, just 1 second. When you say a woman must have at
Yep, go ahead.
least one X chromosome, that is, again, basically everyone with a typical sexual development. They will either have XX, which has at least one, or XY, which has at least one X chromosome.
Okay.
Thank you, Boo.
I mean, there's a million ways to argue the chromosomes, I guess, really, because there are abnormalities and mutations to them.
If you'd like to, you
but
can
do
choose
you
a different
know-
necessary condition.
Do you know how many? Well, do you know how many? How much of what percent of the population that is really affected by the mutations and abnormalities in the chromosomes?
The rate doesn't matter when it comes to a necessary condition. Necessary
Well,
conditions
okay,
can have
but do you
zero
think-
exceptions.
Okay. Do you think it would be more productive to really talk about like the 99%
Nope.
of people
Because-
that fall within the XX and the X and the XY, like the actual
Boo.
typical male and female, instead of arguing over the 1%?
No, because if you want to exclude someone from a category, you must make that category infallible. It must be
Okay, so
infallible.
what if there was male, female, and intersex? So you excluded them from the male or female, but you give them intersex where they can choose whether they want to be male or female.
If they can choose what they want to be, then again, the category is not infallible because you have a bunch of people that will not meet that necessary condition still inside of that category, which means if the category is flexible, the category needs to be flexible. It can't be this is necessary unless necessary conditions can have zero exceptions, none
So
whatsoever.
you think if a biological male that had perfectly healthy hormones, chromosomes, was, theoretically, if you could just say yes, like this was like a male, 100% man, and he decided he woke up one day and he decided he wanted to be a female, he could fall, and you would be like, yeah, this is, and he, got a sex change operation, downed a whole bunch of hormones, get his makeup up, he can be a female if he wanted to be?
So one of the things I think you're lacking a bit of understanding on is how we categorize sex in specifically the human species. So sex is split up into two categories. It's genotypic sex and phenotypic sex. Genotypic sex is going to be your chromosomal makeup, and genotypic sex is 100% immutable. It doesn't change.
Thank you, Boo.
It basically stays the same. We don't have the technology to change your genotypic sex. Phenotypic sex is going to be your primary and secondary sex characteristics. Okay, so it's going to be a litany of things from penises and genitalia and vaginas to hormones to a bunch of other stuff. Phenotypic sex is modifiable. It can be changed. So I can have somebody who is genotypically male, phenotypically female, and their gender is woman. Or they could be genotypically male and phenotypically male and still have a gender
you
woman.
call it phenotypical?
Phenotypic,
phenotypical?
Yes. This is how we categorize sex in
Explain that to me one more time.
Phenotypic
What
sex
is that
is
exactly?
it's your primary and secondary sex characteristics. It's basically like the outward perception of your sex, like how your sex metastasizes into the physical reality. So instead of just chromosomes, right, which are a part of genotypic, it can be what develops from those chromosomes. So again, genitalia, the way like our bodies are built, like broad bodies, short broad bodies. It's just the way that your sex is expressed out on the physical side. And again, this is
So
a
how
totally
I feel
modifiable.
or how I actually look? So you're talking about like your external genitalia?
If we're gonna say like the brain, gender would be the mind aspect. So gender is going to be your like innate perception of yourself. So gender is
Okay, so if
we're
I
gonna say feel,
phenotypically,
quote
if I
unquote,
feel
that would be
like
gender.
a woman, but genetically I'm a male, I can still be a woman. Is what
Yeah,
you're
you
saying.
can genotypically be male, phenotypically be male, but your gender could be woman. Or you could genotypically be male, phenotypically be female, and your gender is woman. Or you could genotypically male. Technically, you could genotypically be male, phenotypically be female, and have a gender of woman if you want. Right? There's a whole litany of combinations of these three things, but these are the three things that work together to form sex and to form gender. It's your genotypic sex, your
Okay,
phenotypic
so
sex, and then your gender identity.
if I'm following you correctly, what I'm hearing is that if their genotype would be female, or yeah, let's see, yeah, female, but their brain, they feel like a woman or a man,
I just like to
then
be careful
you're
of
comfortable
the.
calling them a man, but you would also know that they are the opposite
So I like to be
genetically.
careful about calling them calling it a feeling, because it's just an innate understanding. Feeling makes it sound like it's something that you're consciously choosing, but like all of this is your gender identity is a subconscious thing. You don't consciously choose it. But you could genotypically be male and still be a woman, because woman is based on gender identity, not genotypic or phenotypic sex, right?
Thank you, Boo.
But like I wouldn't say that they're not women, because women is a gender category, not a sex category, and gender is primarily social, a neurosocial concept. So it's both neurology and sociology combined. But I would say that like we can mix and match these things, and I have no and most trans people that I've met have no issue saying that like, yeah, I'm genotypically male, but like because like who cares, right? But when it comes to their gender,
Well, see, I guess
their gender is woman.
because I usually only talk to people that are on the other end that you are. So I guess I didn't hear that part of the argument where they do consider themselves genetically, say male or female, but yeah, they feel or they identify as the opposite.
I've never met a trans person who will deny their genotypic sex ever. Never met that. I've met plenty
Okay,
of trans people who will say that they're phenotypically female because they've induced enough intersex conditions within themselves via modifiable traits that now, like under any scope, right, they need to be treated like female just because their body is now more closely resembled to a female body. But I've never met a trans
wait,
person
you're
that will
saying
deny their genotypic
they've
sex.
taken so much hormones, is what you said?
What I like to refer to it as is like inducing specific intersex conditions, so that way their bodies become more phenotypically female. This can be hormones, this can be surgery, this can be a litany of things. But like, yeah, because they've now gone through this, like, so for instance, some trans women will need to see an OBGYN because of the difference in hormones that they now have, right? So these doctors have to kind of look at them more as female because of the way that their bodies are now functioning. It doesn't mean that their genotype has changed. It just means that their phenotype has changed enough that we have to look at them a different way.
And that is irreversible.
That is irreversible. I mean, like some things might, like getting bottom surgery is typically going to be an irreversible thing. I don't know that how much. I don't know if you can do a penoplasty onto a vaginoplasty, but like I don't really care
Well, no,
whether
like
it's irreversible
the
or not.
effects of the hormones. You said somebody that took the amount of hormones that they did, it kind of changed their outward appearance, right? Because like if I take a bunch of estrogen, I could, and yeah, I could grow boobs. That's going to change my outward appearance. And if I take so much of this stuff, is that irreversible if I do that?
There are some irreversible side effects with gender affirming care. Most of those are mitigated by like other things, but typically when you end gender affirming care, your body will go back to its like our bodies are really resilient. So when you stop doing any gender affirming treatment, our bodies will just like revert back to pre gender affirming care condition.
Okay, but you're saying that they would be more aligned with intersex now because of the irreversible.
No. While
Oh,
if they are undergoing things like HRT, I just say that I get this from another trans creator that I know. I just say that they've induced certain intersex conditions in themselves. One of those could be that now their body has higher levels of estrogen than it does testosterone, which can be an intersex
okay,
condition
so not
in
that they
males.
actually changed into like an intersex, but they would resemble more intersex now, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just careful.
Unless they
I
went
would
through
just
like some kind of operation.
Yeah, I would just be careful about saying changed into an intersex, because intersex are a group of conditions that people have. So we don't call people like intersex as a determining of like what they are as a person. We just say they have intersex conditions that affect their body in different ways. I just like to be
Okay, so I don't know how I would argue with the way that you put it, with the where they just want to be called or they feel, or I don't know how to word it the right way.
It's the same.
So
Here's the
they
thing. It's the same with us, right? I, as a cisgender man, right, have just an innate understanding that I'm a man, right? I don't have to think about it. I just know that I'm a man. I would assume it's the same with you. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to think about it for more than 2 seconds. You just know you're a man.
Right.
It's the same with trans people. Like, a trans man just has this innate understanding that they're a man. It might have taken them a little bit longer to figure out that innate understanding, mostly because we don't teach that sort of thing, right? For us, it's a bit easier because we live in a world that's crafted to tell us we're boys and men. So we don't need to give it a second thought. They might, because the world isn't crafted around them for that reason, but it's the same thing. They just inherently know that they're a man, and their inherent understanding is the same as our inherent understanding. It's just they might have differences in their genotypic and phenotypic sex than we do.
Okay, so they know that's who they are, right? They know, like, deep down, say it was a man, genetically a man, but they know that they're a woman.
Yeah, just be
right?
careful. Remember,
So that
it's
person feels
just remember it's genetically male, right? Remember that the genetic part is the male category. So just remember that bit.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, so genetically male, and they know that they're female.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they need to go through the operations and take all the hormones in order to affirm that? If they already know that's who they are.
Yeah, no, I can explain that to you. So typically, when we have somebody who is trans, right? And obviously you'll get a lot more understanding from this if you talk to somebody who is trans, but because I'm in my 1v1 debate era, you're just talking to me right now. But like, if you want to, I can get you connected with people that are actually trans. If you want to join like my debate Discord, I have a bunch of trans people in there that can tell you how they experience things. But typically when you are trans,
that might be something I'm actually interested in, because I like your channel, because like I said earlier, I stand a lot of, I agree with, I disagree with a lot of stuff that you have posted on here. And so it's actually nice to talk to somebody that's on the other end, because everyone else I talk to they're kind of on my end. So I only hear one side, so I don't really hear the other side as often.
Yeah, but it's really simple to explain, right? There's a thing that happens, and this actually happens to both trans and cis people. We all can experience this. It's called gender dysphoria. So gender dysphoria is just this innate feeling of stress that you get when the phenotypic representation of your sex differs from your gender. So because we live in a society that's sort of constant, this is why I called gender a neurosocial thing earlier, right? We live in a society that is constantly gendered, right? We gender just about anything. By the way, chat, the whiteboard is for Twitch viewers only. So if you're on Twitch, you can see the whiteboard, not if you're on TikTok. So we live in a society that is like super gendered, and this constant gendering has actually rewired our brain chemistry, which happens all the time. We're creatures that when societal things happen, our brains can actually change and shift, and this change, right, can affect future generations of people. So our brains have sort of been hardwired on this gender thing. Another aspect of it is if you have somebody who, like, let's say they're 5 years old. And they might already be feeling like, well, I don't really feel, everybody calls me boy, but it's not really how I feel. And they notice that throughout their entire lives, they see girls, and the girls are being treated the way that they kind of feel. They're like, something about the way, they might not be able to put into words any of this yet, but something about the way that watching girls interact, watching girls, seeing how girls' bodies are, seeing all of this, like something about this is connecting with me, right? That's because they may have gender dysphoria. So as they grow up, they're going to go through puberty. And in puberty, your body is starting to take on the shape or form of males and females, right? So as we know, males typically have broader frames. Females are going to typically grow larger breasts. Females their face shape is going to be different. Men are going to grow body hair more exponentially in certain places. So all of these things are going to happen. If I have somebody who's a trans girl, So she was born a male. She identifies as a girl. And her body starts to go through the puberty of a male. That's going to cause some level of stress in her. Like there are going to be conflicting things because on the inside, right,
Thank you,
she
Boo.
has this innate sense that she's a girl. But on the outside, her body is changing to show everything society says is a boy. So her body is just giving boy while she's giving girl. So that will cause gender dysphoria. And if your gender dysphoria is severe enough, right, it can lead to comorbidities like depression, anxiety, a whole bunch of things. So when we talk about gender affirming surgery, it's really not to affirm your gender to people on the outside, except for like so that they stop misgendering you. But basically, it's just allowing that phenotypic side of your body to match your gender. And when that happens, oftentimes trans people will no longer feel this
Thank you, Boo.
dysphoria. And what I've had a lot of trans people tell me, as well as read, is that they'll feel a thing called gender euphoria, where because their body is matching now what society has kind of dictated is the female body, or because of all these things, they'll start to feel better about their gender and they'll feel good in their gender because they're matching up. So it's less that we're affirming just their gender in the first place, but more we're affirming that phenotypic side so that they no longer feel that distress. If that all makes sense.
Thank you, Boo.
It does make sense, and I'm just, while you're talking, I was kind of thinking about. So I mean, personally, I don't care enough to like tell somebody else that they're
Thank you,
not
Boo.
who they say they are. The only real problems I have with some of the stuff is that they have to have other people that go along with it. Like say they force me or other people to affirm them in their gender.
But remember, you've agreed with me
So, like-
on the gender part. You've agreed with me. So there would be no reason for you not to affirm them. Because you've agreed that gender
Okay,
is going to
but
be
the
different than that
problem, though-
genotypic sex.
The problem though is that you have people that one, it's not that obvious. So you were saying that something like they get misgendered. I've seen some people that they don't look anything like.
Sure, but take this.
A person that's trying to transgender or.
I fully
What
understand
was
what
that?
I fully understand what you're saying. But take this to its logical next step, right? Let's say I have a cisgender woman. So this is a woman who's born female, has lived her whole life as a woman, but she just like looks like a dude.
Mhm.
Which these things exist. I've met cisgender women that just look like men, right? Or look like what is typical of men in our society, right? You don't say all of a sudden because this cisgender woman looks like a man that she's not a woman. Like we don't now place that on her, right? Right? We don't go, well, because you don't look like what I view a woman has to look like, you're all of a sudden not a woman.
No, I agree with that. I do agree with that. But the problem that is being made though, also, is you have these people that, they want to be, let's say it's a male, genetically male, and then identifies as female, and then go into the women's bathroom. And then from that time, that whole female persona is actually fake. And then they go in there and like rape a girl.
Okay. So let me correct some things on you here, right? First of all, the things you're saying, pretty insensitive, because these are things that just like on the whole don't tend to happen. So first and foremost, when we look at like SA, like when we look at the rates of sexual assault, you're way less likely to get SA'd in public than you are to get SA'd in your home, right? Your home is the place that you're most likely to get assaulted in. And you're most likely to get assaulted by somebody you know or a partner, right? These tend to be the most likely rates of like who's going to assault you and how you're going to assault, or like how you're going to be assaulted. If the issue with what you're saying is, again, when we use logic in this, it doesn't fully track. So if we're saying we can't allow trans women into the women's bathroom because the women may suffer assault, when we look at the rates, we now have to say, okay, because we won't allow trans women into women's bathrooms because you risk assault. We shouldn't, because again, it's because we're as a society, well, not us, but you're as a society viewing them as men. You're viewing them as men, right? You're not viewing them as women. What we're saying is we need to keep men and women separated in places that we know women might get assaulted, which is typically the home, right? But I think you and I would both agree it's kind of silly to say that like we should keep men out of all women's homes, right? That's just kind of silly, even though the
Right.
rate of assault there
I would
is
agree with
much
that.
higher. It's exponentially higher, right? The other issue here that
Mhm.
we run into is like, let's say I have a bathroom, and there's a sign above that bathroom, and that sign says woman. And a woman goes into the bathroom. She enters in. She goes in to do her business. And I got somebody who's out here. This could be a man who's ready to do some assaulting. Do you think that sign is stopping him? Do you think that he sees that sign and he all of a sudden goes, "Oh, better not"? No, the sign doesn't
No, it's
matter.
not much of a deterrent. No.
And also, he's probably going to wait until she's alone anyway, right? It's not so much that she's in the bathroom; it's that she's going into a place where she's alone. So we can fix this with a couple of issues. Like if we're just going to talk about the issue with straight men, straight cis men assaulting straight cis women, right? If we're going to just look at this on its surface level, the reason why they tend to do this is because they're alone, right? They're not going to do it in front of people, so this can be affected with two ways. Make all bathrooms single use and put a lock on the door, or make all bathrooms gender neutral. Then, if the bathroom is gender neutral, then the odds of somebody being in there with you exponentially higher. So when we do have that case of somebody who wants to go in with nefarious purposes, there are always people around, so they're not going to do it. There's always people in there. The final thing I want to say is this myth of like trans violence is misconflated, because when we look at the rates of violence, it's actually trans women, Black trans women specifically, who experience violence more. Trans women are, I think it's up to 4 times more likely to be assaulted than a cis woman. And this is when they're closeted and when they're out. They are more likely to be assaulted. So I actually
And assaulted by who? Like, what's the other side? Is
cis,
it like
by
statistically
cis
who's
men.
the other side doing it?
Cis men, cisgender men. So like it's actually like if we take this and we look at what the best policy is, putting trans women into a bathroom with a bunch of cis men is actually the worst thing that can happen. That's actually where you're going to see the most amount of violence come. So I just don't like the story that like honestly, I think this idea that that these trans people are doing this for nefarious purposes is just not true. Nobody
Thank you,
goes
Bill.
through through gender transition. Nobody goes through all of this stuff because they want to do something nefarious, right? And just
Well, I'm
to
not saying that they went through all the process. It's more or less they just grow their hair out or something, and they claim to be something else.
Yeah, but what is the purpose of this? If they're going to assault somebody, what does growing her hair out do? It doesn't do anything.
Well,
It
I
doesn't
think
make it
that
easier.
is the purpose. In
No,
order to, because
but
we got
it's
a lot
not.
of perverts out there. I think some of these people, what they're doing, and now I will say, I think these people are just trying to take advantage of the
But
opportunity.
again, the bulk of women that get assaulted it is done by their partners or a close friend. It's not done by some random trans person in the bathroom. They're assaulted by people they know, and it's typically a power thing. Like assault, it tends to be a power thing, right? But like again, this isn't what's actually happening. And we can even go a step further, right? If you have a daughter, like let's say there's you and you're alone out in public with like your 5-year-old daughter.
Mhm.
I'm not sending my 5-year-old into any bathroom by themselves. They're 5. So what does she do? She either goes into with me to the male bathroom, and now I have a female or girl in the male bathroom with a bunch of men, or I go into the women's bathroom, in which I'm now in the bathroom with a bunch of women, right? We don't have an issue with this. Nobody's crying over this. And this is the exact thing that they're saying is they don't want men in bathrooms. They don't want women in bathrooms with men, right? It's just it's personally the bathroom thing is a made up issue, right? It's just to distract us from the actual thing that's going on, which is trans people are being harmed and we're not doing anything about it, because if we can't change the culture around our views on sex and gender, we're going to continue to have men who beat the shit out of trans women because they think they've been tricked. or we're going to have men who assault trans women because they're secretly closeted, or they secretly are attracted to trans women. They don't want to admit it because of some weird internalized homophobia, right? This is what we run into. Not cis women who are being targeted by cis men, which is another issue we have to deal with entirely separately. But the issue with the trans thing is that we run into trans people being harmed because we have allowed a culture that has created this stigmatization between sex and gender.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I need to do a little bit more research and hear the other side a little bit more, and kind of get a better idea. Because, like I said, the people I normally listen to are on the other end of the spectrum.
Like I said, if you want to join I have a debate server. I have a debate server in the link tree in my bio. If you want to join it, there are plenty of trans people there that can give you their personal experience and the things they've gone through and all of those.
And that's like a one-on-one, or they're just kind of like doing like a monologue.
You can request a one-on-one conversation with anybody in the server, and they'll usually say yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm interested to learn more.
All right, no
Try
problem.
to work out some of these differences.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Yeah.